Hi, I'm actress and activist Shauna Chin, and you're watching Actors MasterClass with JR Watkis.
Shauna Chin, you have such a beautiful smile.
Yes.
Is this your camera smile?
You know what's funny is that ever since I was a kid, I'm always smiling. Everything's smiling. And my mother, I come to find out when I was an adult that her nickname in high school was Smiley. So I think I got it from her.
Oh, wow. So you're in Los Angeles. As I can see, it's daytime behind you and it's nighttime behind me. so Shauna, you just tell me a little bit about yourself.
Oh, we started.
Yeah, man, we started. Tell me, why did you want to become an actor? Like, tell me about how you got to that realization as a human being. Of all the things you should do in life, you're like, yo, I'm going to become an actor.
You know, it was actually a fluke. I tell people all the time that it was a complete buck up, like we say in Jamaica. Like I absolutely had no interest in film and entertainment. I actually am a very shy person. Do you believe that?
Partially.
Do you believe me when I tell you that?
Partially, not fully.
I'm super shy. I'm confident because I'm smart, but when it comes to like the shine to be on me, I'm super shy. Which is probably why I laugh a lot. It's a deflection mode. But anyway, I came to California. I tell people that buy me in slavery, right? They bought me as a registered nurse to this prestigious hospital. It was, everything was brand new. The floor was brand new, everything. And they were looking for critical care nurses. So my specialty in critical care, I do the ER, ICU, and surgery. So, with that specialty, it's, everybody is like, they ready to pay top dollar. They're ready to relocate you. They're ready to like, we need you. We want you, right? I was like, all right, no problem. I'll do that. And so I came here. It was supposed to be for 13 weeks. I was actually in med school. And my physician advisor, his name is Dr. Anderson. And Dr. Anderson sat me down and I said, I want to defer for a year and, I'll be back. And he said, no, you're not coming back. I was like, what do you mean? Of course, this is my career. He said, no, women, and it's a little chauvinistic what he said, but he was like, women, when, you guys tend to take a break, you go off and you have children and, you get married, you never come back. So when, now that you started and you're in the program, now is the best time to just continue. I was like, no, I have been in school since I'm 2. I'm tired. I want to take a break. And so I moved to LA. And while I was here, I met up with, some amazing connections. And being around them then got the bug started. And I was at dinner one day and someone was trying to get an autograph of one of my friends. And the person, not wanting to be rude, they said to the person, oh, who are you? Are you an actor too? And so my girlfriend said, yes, she is. That's how I became an actor.
Wow. That's an unorthodox story. Especially for a Jamaican. Where are you from in Jamaica?
Montego Bay.
Oh, you're a Moby native.
I'm a Moby girl. And it's so funny because you Kingston people say all the time, you call it country. And you'll say things like, oh, there's a certain word that we say or certain words that we say that you guys always make fun of. And I can't think about what it is because every time you guys say it, you say it wrong. And I think to myself, we don't say it like that. But for whatever it is, you guys have a particular thing that you love to make fun of.
It's bende.
I think it's
bende.
Right. I don't think we don't say that.
You definitely
do. You know what I do though that we do say? We do say way. Go. We say that a lot.
But this unique background that you have and these nuances help to give you an edge in Hollywood. And tell me what being in Hollywood is like as a Jamaican actor.
Sometimes it's frustrating because you don't fit in. You're not. When I speak, persons from Jamaica will say, "Oh, but you don't really have a thick accent," which I think I do. But then also when I'm here, people think that I don't have a thick American accent. They can tell that I'm from somewhere. They're like, "Okay, but where are you from?" So being in the middle sometimes gets a little frustrating because you just never fit. You just don't really fit in, and you have to find your own niche. And so that's how I was able to, succeed in. Being in Hollywood is a little bit interesting for any persons who are of a different demographic, because what happens is you tend to feel like you don't really fit in. You're not from the American culture, the American way, so there's certain things you do that are a little odd to Americans, the way you speak. But then when you're in a Jamaican setting, you don't really fit in there either, because people there think, "Oh, Americanized," but so being in the middle can tend to be a little bit frustrating. But what I used being in the middle to do is to be able to, strengthen my own voice. And I was able to find my voice earlier than most, just because I am from a different country. Because I am Jamaican, I was able to succeed because, I knew how to make standing out work for me.
And by succeeding, you mean that you've had TV roles and movie roles, right? Tell us about some of those. What was your first role like? The audition process, and how did you land the role?
Actually landed the role as a nurse. I'm looking for something because for some reason something dropped me in my ear a while ago. but what I was gonna say is I actually landed the role as a nurse by being a nurse. And so I tell people all the time, diversification is a thing that people think about when you're talking about stocks or when you're thinking about, people who have wealth. And diversification can really just mean you using all of what you have in order to succeed. And so my nursing career, I didn't just completely stop. I would work, few hours. And while I was at work, I ended up meeting a casting director. While I was talking to the casting director, I would submit, and then their office, I was just never right for whatever they were doing. But that particular role came up and they reached out to me. They were like, we're actually looking for a nurse and you'd be perfect. And I was like, okay. And I went in and the rest is history. It was on CBS and, everything. I was able to land an agent, like everything just.
I remember Jamaica celebrating that CBS TV show like you were Usain Bolt. Like persons were watching together. We were all rooting for you. We're saying, yeah, because that's the thing about Jamaica. If one person succeeds on the international level, succeed. Yeah, because the cultural capital that comes with that. Do you find that being a Jamaican in Hollywood, there are more roles for you? And I'm not double asking the question. I'm asking that because outside of your international perspective, do you think they give Jamaicans the roles that Jamaicans should play, or they'll give an actor that's known the role and have them learn the Jamaican accent?
That's a very good question. I think, there's opportunities for it to go both ways, but mostly it ends up that they find an actor who's not Jamaican, and then they learn the accent. Because I find that, I'm fortunate enough to also be on behind the scenes in production and entertainment. And, when you're casting for the role, you really want whoever is going to sell your project when you end. So if there's a role that's not as, a big enough role, then you can easier give it to an actor without a name. But I find that most times when, there are any roles of any notoriety where there's going to be a Jamaican highlighted, it's usually a pretty big role, only because if you're highlighting the Jamaican, then that's a key part of the story. Either the actor is in Jamaica, you've gone to Jamaica, something happens why you'd need to have specifically a Jamaican actor. And so as a result, what happens, it happens, Winston Duke, I think, is playing Marcus Garvey, and Winston is from Trinidad, I believe, right? A lot of people will have, different discussions about that, but that happens because Winston is from, Black Panther. He has such a huge, notoriety already that being on the film can bring further notoriety to their project. So then, you kind of, I hope that answers the question.
No, you definitely answer. I saw a movie one time on Netflix that they totally massacred the Jamaican accent. And I think it only had one season. And I was like, yo, you could have at least 2 Jamaican actors in the movie, because I do know that there are many Jamaican bred or Jamaican born people that are in unions, that are in the movie world. So that's what this next question for you is, how is it maneuvering the unions to represent you and to get a piece of the pie that they call diversity? Because for a lot of people in America, diversity means Black. It doesn't mean smaller nationalities and little subsets within Black. It just means Black. So how do you maneuver that? And are you championing that cause for the culture?
The unions and the union itself, so like example, SAG-AFTRA is the one for actors, and that's the one I'm in. They don't actually do the representation. So they have guidelines that dictate whatever race, read, or culture. They have a guideline set for how much I get paid. So based on, which is why even if the project, no matter how small the role is, you want to get on a project of notoriety, which is why the CBS helped me, because then my rate that I command when I go into any room, SAG dictates, okay, you have to pay her higher than someone coming in, right? So in that sense, it helps being in a union, and they fight for you there, and they fight for your voice regardless of, what race you are or whatever demographic, right? They just all across the board fight for actor based on what, their credits, their IMDb credits. As far as for, I think the question is, like for having someone speak for you, the agencies really are the ones who do that. And I think one of the huge things is to know that the agents, they only get paid 10% of what you make. So at this level in my career, while I'm commanding more than the average, it's still not compared to bigger Denzel. You know what I'm saying? So what happens is 10% of my amount is not beneficial to an agent. So that's why it's so hard for people to find representation and, agents, because the agent is like, okay, I'm going to be working twice as hard to get you into that room because nobody knows your name. And then when you do get to that room, the union is going to say, well, this is what your rate is. And I'm going to get 10% of what, So they don't fight for you. And you, notice more than anybody else working with, with musicians, it's like, you get a huge contract in the US and sometimes your project gets shelved or they don't know what to do with you. People say that all the time in the music business. I hear people say all the time, yeah, they landed this contract, but, nobody knew what to do with artists. So the artist really sat there and didn't really get as much benefit as the next artist out there. You know what I mean? And that happens the same with actors. We sit on rosters for a long time with our agents not knowing what the hell to do with us. It's like, okay, how do I market this person? How do I pitch this person? And so it's important, back to your follow-up question, when you have agents who look like you, think like you, it's, that's important. So we don't have as many agents of Caribbean culture, so you don't have people fighting for us on that end. And That's something I haven't put my voice to it yet, but soon enough, my soon will start load them up. Because there's never nothing that I've never seen a fight that I don't want to fight. I'm Aries. I'm born March 25. We fight for everything, like literally. And Aries will fight you for the color of the wall. You know what I'm saying? I remember when I was little, my grandmother used to always say, "Shauna, you're born with a sword in your hand." Always want to fight for some cause.
So if somebody wants to get into the acting world, the world of film, the world of theater, what advice would you give to them?
My main advice would be that you have to treat it as a business. It is entertainment business. I think the one thing that actors always ask me is, the delivery of acting. So they'll ask like how to, do a fight scene, or how do you, do a sex scene, or, they'll ask more technical questions about the craft. And that I think is a more individual and personal tone. You know what I mean? Like you talked about Denzel earlier. Training Day is one of the most, done monologues, right? And people, when they do the monologue, they try to do it like Denzel. With Skype, no, that's his voice. You want to do it with your own tone, your own inflections, right? To deliver that thing to that role. It's usually people usually ask me stuff about what my own voice is or how to do a particular technique. And I usually try to tell people my advice is actually less that and more about learning how to organize yourself as a business, creating an actual production company for yourself, creating yourself different than your actual name. So it just so happens that my stage name and my birth name are Shauna Chin. But you can, but there's an actual legal process that I had to go through in order to make sure that Shauna Chin was my stage name. Like I set up Shauna Chin as a business. So when I get paid, even though the name is the same, there's different bank accounts. There's there's a whole different, like you're actually dealing with a production company when you're dealing with, my brand. And so that's important for persons, to really kind of differentiate. You actually have to kind of sit and, have a lawyer help you, or legal Zoom, help them to actually formulate you as a business so that you can practice in the world in the entertainment world, like a business.
And incorporate your name. I always tell people to incorporate their name, especially when you start to make a little money. I learned that actually from Al Pacino years ago. He did an interview similar to this. And it's actually the inspiration for this podcast. There was a show called The Actors Studio. I don't know if you've ever watched it with James Lipton.
Yes. I've seen it.
It's one of my favorite shows, and it's actually what inspired this. I almost called this show The Actors Studio because James no longer here. I'm like, let me take this. But the idea is to talk to people about the world of acting and really get into the process and the inevitable success. You said production. Are you getting into becoming a producer?
Yes. So I started producing a few projects. They're actually Caribbean based. There is a studio here called Harvest Studios. And they have a notoriety in the entertainment space as being, for Black Hollywood and Black content. Right. So shows like Martin, shows like Jamie Foxx show, they have that notoriety under their belt that they were, producers of that show, those productions. And so I connected with them on actually different level, but one of them happens to be Jamaican too. But so one of the things, and there's one Trinidadian. And so one of the things that we, were, discussing is like, okay, we need to have our voice. We need to have our stories told. And so, we started creating, different projects that we're hoping to because they have that relationship with the networks to air, that we're hoping to get Caribbean content to screen.
That's my language. Ownership, creation, all of that. I saw where Amazon bought MGM recently, a couple of
Oh, I didn't see that.
yeah, which is James Bond and all these movies. They buy an entire studio for $9 billion. So all of these, so streaming is about to become really competitive. If you own some content and it's good, you're probably going to be in the good business right now, because streaming is about to be the thing. And especially for niche markets. Have you clocked on to streaming to help you as an actor, as a personality? Have you been using the sites? Have you been creating IP on YouTube, anywhere to, clock into streaming culture?
That's actually why this camera. That's actually why I got this camera. And, for people who will be watching, there's a whole pre-conversation that JR and I had before about this actual camera. Technology was against me with the camera. And so, but yeah, that's the purpose of, getting it so that we can, get into, streaming. Because one of the things is with, which goes back to organizing yourself as a business. If one of the steps in organizing yourself as a business, you have to know who are you marketing your business to. And so you have to be able to analyze a trend of where is your audience. And if your audience is on YouTube, if your audience is on Netflix, if your audience is no longer in AMC, you have to go where your audience is, because now there's a great example is Quibi. And, everybody, the creators of Quibi, which is for people who are watching, it was a streaming platform, an online content. You could go on there and watch, TV shows. There was actually one of my favorites was with Kevin Hart. Kevin Hart had a TV show on there. It was really hilarious. It was funny.
He's who made it popular.
Oh my God, it was amazing. But Quibi is no longer. Right? And so now all those, people who created content specifically for that now have to go find a whole new audience. I think we picked them up. Somebody started with an R.
I saw it. I know what you're talking about.
Really cool. Somebody ended up picking them up. But that could have been detrimental. That would have been, where's all that content going? Because they were like quick bites, which is Quibi, quick bites. There's, quick bites of content. So where are you going to show that? Where are you going to air that?
Yeah.
So it's important for you to know your market.
That might be something you could get into, Jamaican quick bites, because you have the talent, you have the scope and the reach. Who has been the most interesting person you work with or met in LA? It doesn't have to be an actor, but if it's an actor, let me know. Or director or producer.
There's so many, but I think my choice would be Gene Simmons from Kiss. The rock group Kiss?
Yeah.
I think I would say the lead singer for Kiss is probably the most interesting person I've met. Because
I see the googly eyes. You're like, oh.
No. Actually, nothing. Actually, it's just nothing intimate. I think it was because what my expectation of him as a person, being a rock star, coming from the 80s too. I grew up watching him, and I expected this bad boy kind of persona. I expected just raunchy, and he was so subdued, and he was really more quiet than I would have expected. And I think he left me with the most important thing that I have learned in my life, which is that it's okay to be selfish. I think, I grew up in a family that's they're all teachers, they're all educators. And so they're very nurturing. And so I became very nurturing. I went into a career of nursing before I even became an entertainer, which is very caring. So I'm a naturally, I nurture more than anything else. It's less selfish all the time. I'm always trying to put myself in their shoes. And I remember talking to him about it. The conversation was, he was telling me he was born in January. And so I laughed and I was like, oh, God, really Capricorn, them can't agree.
Oh, I'm a Capricorn.
I
We get
do
along
not-
quite fine.
I do not get along with Capricorns at all, because I think Capricorns are the most selfish people that I've ever met.
Wow.
And, you know, it's, isn't that crazy? And so, and I think it's a different degrees, because you're right. You and I get along. You're not selfish at all. But, and it's because I think they take, and I give. And so I was talking to him. He's born in January, and I was like, Jesus, have mercy. If I never meet another January person, I'm okay. And he was like, you know, I agree that I'm selfish, but he was like, but it's okay, you know, to be selfish. And we had a whole conversation about why being selfish was, you know, important for you to be able to, you know, move yourself forward. And, you know, that was that I would say is
that's a beautiful perspective. So where are you going? Like, where do you want to take your career in the entertainment business? What's next for you?
You know, like I told you earlier, I'm now, you know, doing a lot of behind the scenes. So I'm writing a lot of my own projects. I am planning on directing. One of the things that I had already known from the get-go is that I wanted to make sure that I used my voice. A part of it was that I didn't want to lose my nursing degree. I wanted to not completely get rid of it. You know, I wanted to make sure that I use that knowledge, and being a humanitarian just started naturally kind of happening. But, you know, a huge portion of the Shauna Chin brand was always to make sure that activism was something that was at the forefront. I wanted to make sure, you know, I find like when people have a voice, and people think of having a voice as you have to be huge, and that's no, you know, whatever influence you have, you know, if you use that for the betterment, I think we can all, you know, be in our own environment, make it a little bit better. And so I was very intentional to make sure that Shauna was, yes, the actor, but activism was a huge portion of my career. So what's next for me immediately in the next month is a lot of more politically driven things, only because we're coming up on Diaspora month for Jamaica. And so last December, I got elected as the Global Jamaica Diaspora Council representative for the US West and Midwest region. And what the Global Jamaica Diaspora Council is Jamaica's Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade determined that they wanted to have a deepened relationship with Jamaica and Jamaica's diaspora. It's a way so that we can, you know, invest more in Jamaica, find more resources for Jamaica, as well as give intellectual property to Jamaica, you know, giving back. When I was growing up in school, because I did high school in Jamaica. And so when I was growing up, a huge part of social studies was the, you know, whole brain drain situation. You know, people, they learn and they leave Jamaica, and then what happens is then the resources are pulled from Jamaica. So Jamaica is trying to be intentional in trying to get that back, you know, or harness those resources for the betterment of Jamaica. And so this Global Jamaica Diaspora Council was created, and they held elections in the US, New York, and Canada, and like the bigger regions. And I got elected here in California in the West region. I have 23 states that I represent. And so in sitting on this council, when we got together, there's a total of 30. And I then got elected within the group as the vice chair for the council. So I've been really kind of honing that, building that ambassador brand, building, you know, that portion of my career. So a lot of people, when they look at my career, they think, you know, from the actor side, but like I said, intentionally for me, a huge part of it is the, you know, political brand as well. So that's what is immediately next for me.
So activist Shauna is about to be president of the United States soon. Hey,
actually, I just sat on a thing where it was a vote to make sure that, because here in the US, the highest rank you can go rank. I say rank because I used to be in the army, right? But the highest level you can go is as a governor of a state, as a immigrant, but you cannot be president. So that's for sure. You ask about what are the things that I'm fighting for? I'm fighting to make sure that that's changed. Like, okay, I think Arnold Schwarzenegger, he was pretty much at the forefront. He was the face of trying to make you be able to run for presidency as an immigrant. So I'm going to pick up where he left off for sure.
You had to fight for your name because somebody tried to hijack your name in Jamaica. Tell me briefly, you don't have to get into the details, but tell me, how did that go and how did you end up getting back your name? or did you lose it? My bad. Did you lose your name? And tell me the process of it.
I was able to get my name back. In terms of getting your name back, kind of sounds a little bit vague, but I was able to successfully have the other person stop using the name, so that was good. And it goes back to what I was telling, people, my advice for persons is to make sure that you set up yourself as a business. So that is the only thing that saved me, because I was incorporated as a business. And so then when someone unintentionally, I don't think there was anything nefarious or anything, that they intentionally said, oh, I'm going to take this girl's name. I don't even think they were even thinking about me at the time. You know what I'm saying? That my style is not to disrespect anybody else's brand. I don't downplay, no matter how raunchy a brand is. I don't think because you're raunchy, it's anything less. You know what I mean? And I think when the fight for the name was happening, a lot of people thought, oh, she's nice. And it really had nothing to do with that. You know what I'm saying? I rep dancehall hard. So it has nothing really to do with, any downplay of any, person. It really just had to do with the fact that where I'm going with my brand, the United Nations is what's in my 5-year goal, in my 10-year goal. Do you know what I'm saying? So I just operate in a space that I cannot afford raunchiness. You know what I mean? I already do some raunchy things as an actor. You know what I mean? I do hot sex scenes. I do, at one point, I think in 2012, I had this Check Your Boobs campaign. It was a breast cancer campaign. My girlfriend died of breast cancer, and I did a breast cancer campaign. And it was, it was pretty raunchy. And I tried to scour
for the cause. It was for the cause. But you said that yeah. I tried to kind of scale back and make sure it wasn't, when I started going into, my activism started getting a lot, stronger. I was at the consulate of Jamaica in Los Angeles. There were so many things, that I just could not afford, even for things that were in my past and I was doing, for it to overshadow that and put me in a category where it's like, okay, how are you going to represent a brand and you bat you out the door? The other person who was, unintentionally using my, the name Shauna Chin, is just a raunchy brand. That's the hype, and that was the root of their brand, which is fine. Like I said, it just goes against what I was trying to do. And so immediately, I had to get my lawyers to say, I'm not going to clean up my crap and have to deal with your shit too. That's just not. Who you listen to? You say you listen to dancehall, you rap dancehall a lot. Who you listening to now? Like,
oh my God, Tommy Lee, I'm a man. I'm telling you right now.
Give me a tune. Give me Tommy Lee's favorite song that you love.
You know what? Okay, so interestingly enough, Hero is my favorite. Do you know that one? It's kind of
I don't know the name of his songs. Because I can't even hear what he's saying. I really don't know what he's saying. He's one of the artists I really don't know what he's saying.
It's probably because I come from Mobe and you hear we talk funny, so I understand.
There you go.
That's probably it. But I love Tommy Lee. I love Massacre. I've never met Tommy Lee, I should say. So as much as I say I'm a man, I want to
it's
make
much
sure
easier to meet
that
him
people
now, you know.
understand.
It's much easier to meet him now. He has one address. He's
Listen,
gonna be there.
listen. It's not gonna be for long. It's not gonna be for long. So don't even hype for me right now.
I'm not. I'm just telling you.
Road.
I'm just telling you. You can find him.
Soon touch the road. Soon touch the road.
And-
You know what? Cartel is also, well, Cartel is my boss. So it's so very interesting that they're both incarcerated now. But it goes to show you the level of, people wouldn't think that I'm into certain things, but yeah, I love Cartel and family. Massacre, he's hot.
All right, Shauna, we're gonna end there with your top 3 dancehall artists who you secretly listen to while in the UN meetings.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. This was really entertaining. I learned a lot. I'm sure the people who listen to it and watch it will learn a lot. Thank you so much, Shauna. Beautiful, 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 beautiful.